Hi everybody and welcome to Fab Tax. I'm Rosemary and in today's video I have 30 fall decorating ideas. Now in addition to being a compilation of some great DIYs, I also have found some great BUIs or buys if you want to go that route instead. There is a section on fall wreaths followed by fall decor and ending with a fall coffee station. And at the end of each section I will share some great buying options that I found. Now this is a long form video and I know many of you do enjoy those. But if you just want to see specific parts, there is a timestamp index in the description, which you can just click on and go directly to the part you want to see. Alternately, I've also included a playlist link in the description where you can see each of the original short form videos individually. In this first section, I'm going to show you how I made 3 fall wreaths. For this first wreath, I'm going to use a Dollar Tree wire form and I'm going to just clip off the outer ring using some wire cutters. Next I'm going to take some brown raffia that I got from the Dollar Tree. It does come in this 3-pack that is a multicolored pack, but I'm going to just be using the brown raffia. I'm going to tie it on there to one part of the form and then just begin wrapping the entire form with the raffia until I get to the end there, and then I'll just wrap it around and secure it with some hot glue. Next I'm going to take some Dollar Tree florals, including this green grass stem, and then also some hydrangea in this beautiful nice orange color, and then also this cream colored hop bush. And so I got 2 of each of those stems. I'm also going to be using some Dollar Tree ribbon for my bow, and then this letter that I purchased from Walmart for I believe it was about $1.68. And then I'll be covering that with this piece of Hobby Lobby scrapbook paper. To do that, I'm going to just trace the letter with a pencil, and then I'll just proceed to cut it out from there. Next, I'm going to paint the letter with some black chalk paint. Once that's dry, I'll take some Mod Podge and give the letter a nice, thin, and even coat of the Mod Podge. From there, I want to make sure maybe it's a little bit dry, not completely, just a little bit tacky, and then I'll proceed to add my cutout letter to the wooden letter. Next, I'm going to start attaching my florals, and so with this type of wreath, it's really easy because I don't need to wire it down, or well, I will wire it a little bit right here just to hold the upper pieces in place. Just give a little piece of wire there, and then this way it'll just hold the top of the stem in place as well. But as you saw, all I needed to do with the lower part of the stem was to just slide it there in between the raffia. And you'll see it here with these small cut pieces of the hop bush. So you can see where I'm just kind of inserting them there in between the raffia, and then it holds in place really nicely. And there's no more need for any additional tape or any additional wire. Then I'm going to proceed to start with my hydrangeas, and again I just cut them off of the larger stem just into individual pieces, and this way it's just easier to work with and get them positioned where I want them to be. For my bow, I'm going to use this Dollar Tree burlap, and I'm going to use the polka dot burlap as well and make a 2-toned double-decker bow. And so all I'm doing here is making a simple loop bow. I just started the ribbon off with a nice long tail there at first, and then began making even loops on each side of the bow, holding the bow in the middle with my thumb and index finger. Then I just kind of put that aside. I'm going to do the same with this smaller polka dot bow. And again, I just gave it a bit of a tail there to start and then began creating the loops. And so I will continue making some loops here, holding again the middle with my thumb and forefinger, and then just cut it off. And now I will apply that to the smaller one, the smaller polka dot one. Will just go on top of the larger regular burlap one, and then I'll just use some wire there in the middle to hold the two not only together but hold them in place in the bow form. And I just want to make sure that that wire is long enough because I also will be using the wire to attach the bow to the wreath. And then I can just fluff out all the different parts and just make a really pretty bow, making sure that my prints are in the right direction, and just cut off the edges there to form a lovely finish to my bow. And since this bow will be placed in the middle of the wreath, or in the middle section between the two sets of flowers, I'm going to go ahead and add it to the wreath now. And I did just put the letter in place because I kind of want them to be opposite each other, so I just want to make sure everything's lined up the way I want it to look. And then I'll just go ahead with that excess wire that I left there on the back and attach the bow to the wreath form. And now I'll just continue with my flowers on the other side, just arranging them in the same way, just going in the other direction on the other side. I'll do the grass stems, then those cream hop bush, and then the orange hydrangeas. And now I'm going to attach my monogram, and I'm going to just use the E6000 glue to do that. I'm going to put some there on the wreath as well as on the letter. And I'm also going to add some hot glue for that instant hold, so that it holds my E6000 where I want it to be and doesn't slide all over the place as E6000 is wont to do. And then here you see the finished project, so pretty and elegant in those beautiful fall colors. And then the monogram, of course, gives it that wonderful personalization as well as an elegant touch of class. For the next wreath, I will again be cutting the outer ring off of a Dollar Tree form, again just using some wire cutters. But for this wreath, I will be wrapping the form in some Dollar Tree twine instead of the raffia. And again, I'm going to just tie it on and then begin wrapping. And then once the hoop is wrapped, I will just hot glue the end to secure it. For the florals, I'll be using these little clip-on pumpkins from the Dollar Tree, some of these cotton stems from the Dollar Tree, and then some of these lamb's ear stems that I purchased from Walmart. And I will be attaching the stems to the wreath in the same way that I did in the previous DIY. I'm going to just slide the stems there in between the twine on the wreath form. And if you notice, I am kind of pinching the pieces of twine or the wire up a little bit, and that gives me a little kind of channel. See there, I'm kind of pinching it. Well, that's kind of giving me the little channel to create for the stems to go into. And then I just kind of fluff everything out, and then I will begin again on the other side with the lamb's ear. Again, just kind of placing it through, kind of getting some of those little nubby bits over the top, and then just going back and making sure that any holes I made with the twine have been covered. Then I'll go back with my other stem from the Dollar Tree, this cotton stem, and again just kind of work it through those pieces of twine on the form. Now if any of the little edges pop out like you see them here, I'm not too worried about those because I am going to be covering that with the bow there in that section, so you don't have to be too concerned in areas where you are going to be covering it either with more of the florals or with a bow or other things that you're attaching to the wreath. And then I'm going to just go in and attach some of those little clip-on pumpkins. They are just too cute. Oh my goodness. And they clip right into place and they make just the perfect little accent. And I'll just go over to the other side and repeat the process again with the pieces of the cotton stem. Also comes with those acorns there, and just arrange those all along among the lamb's ear leaves there. And then go back again with my cute little pumpkin clips and clip those right in. To make the bow, I'm going to use this buffalo check ribbon that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. Now this is a great value. You get 75 feet. How could you beat that? And it's always like half price. So it was only about $5 for this ginormous roll. And to make the bow, I always start with about an 18-inch long tail. I guess that's what you call them, a tail there on the end, and then just begin making loops that are all about the same size. And I hold those loops in the middle with my thumb and forefinger, and then I'm just going back and forth to each side, making equal size loops. And I make probably about 10 loops depending on the size of bow I'm going for. And then once I've made 5 loops to each side, I'm just going to bring it down and cut off the end. And then take some wire, again leaving enough wire so that I can attach it to the wreath eventually. And then once that wire is secure, I can begin to fluff my little loops, and that's just what brings them up and makes them nice, the bow nice and full and pretty. And then I'm going to attach the bow to the wreath. I'm going to just use those wires that I left a little long there on the back of the bow, and then I can just twist it around and attach it to the wreath form. I also wanted to add one of these galvanized metal welcome signs from the Dollar Tree, but I wanted it to stand up a little because I didn't want it sitting kind of down in the leaves. So I glued a dowel to the back, and then I wanted to cover the dowel a little bit, so I took some twine and just wrapped it around the dowel all the way down, and then stuck that into the bottom and glued it on the sides. And then here is the finished project in all those beautiful pale shades, set off so nicely by that bold black and white buffalo check bow. Next up is a thrift flip wreath that I purchased from Goodwill for $2.50. It has seen better days, but it's got some good bones. It did need a good cleaning, however, so I sprayed it down with some hot soapy water, rinsed it off with the hose, and then left it out in the sun to dry. It cleaned up pretty well, but there were some pieces that were still looking a little manky, so and some were just downright falling apart. So I kind of just made a decision as to what items I wanted to keep: the artichokes, the feather balls, and the apples, and then everything else I was just going to remove from the wreath to clean it up and also to make room for some of the beautiful florals that I purchased from Dollar Tree. So I'm loving these little pomegranates. These are such a pretty shade, as well as these absolutely stunning willow branches. And then I'm just loving these little pumpkins on the vine, and then these very dramatic mustard colored feathers, and then also this pretty grass as well. But before we get to the fun part, I did need to do a little housekeeping on this wreath, and so I just took some floral wire and kind of restrung it there around the middle where the branches were all starting to fall out. And it would have been nice if I had a better colored wire. I just had that silver wire on hand, but it's okay. The flowers came along and covered it nicely. And I also wanted to make sure that all the other pieces that were remaining were secure and in place. And now I'm going to start with these dramatic feathers, and I thought I would put them behind that feather ball from the original wreath. So this is going to kind of set up my design. So where those feather balls are, I'm going to just add those feathered stems, and then it will give me markers where I know that I'm going to now add 3 of these green stems, these kind of grassy stems that are going to go in between where the feathers are. So I'll use the feathers as my marker, and then I'll go back with 3 stems of the green grass in between those 2 feathers. And then once all my green grass is in, I'll use the green grass as a marker for my rather vibrantly colored willow branches there, and pretty much put one of those willow branches in between each of my green stems. Next, I'm going to attach my mini pumpkin stems, and I'm going to just go with those and kind of place them around at first just to see how they fit and how they work. I'm going to keep those kind of to the inner side of my wreath, and again, just kind of play with it a little before permanently inserting them. Next up are the little pomegranates, and those I'm going to just place sporadically around, and so I'm going to cut those actually off the stem into smaller pieces and just place them where I feel like they are needed. And then wow, what a difference. I told you this thing had good bones. Just with a little soap of water, a little love, a few Dollar Tree stems, and this 36-inch at least diameter wreath would probably sell for several $100s in a fancy store, but we know it costs a lot less. But if you're not up for wreath making, there are some awesome buying options. Here to the left are my favorites. These are from Joann's, and they are on a special sale right now, but you know Joann's, they're always putting stuff back on sale. And right now they are $14.99, and they are fabulous. These are 3 of my favorites, and they do have at least like 20 more to choose from, and they are only online though, but with Joann's quality, I think it's a pretty safe bet. This Kirkland's one in the middle I thought was a great value, also at about $20, and then Big Lots coming in with 2 beautiful offerings, both at $25, but Big Lots 20% coupon coming up soon in September. And now we're going to move on to the next section, Fall Decor. And we're going to start with one of my very most favorite pieces, this little pumpkin cloche. To make, I use one of these Dollar Tree candlesticks, as well as one of the larger magnetic containers. So then, you know, there's ones that come like 2 to a pack. This is the one that's just 1 for $1. And then it has a little magnet on the back. I just pulled that off. And then I'm going to add some E6000 glue to the top of the candlestick and add my magnetic container on the top. And then I spray painted both pieces with some black chalk paint. And then here is our surprise material. It is a gutter strainer. You can get these at Home Depot and Lowe's. They cost about $2.88, but they literally make the perfect material to create a little wire cloche. And better still, they are just the right size to fit into that Dollar Tree metal container. So I'm just going to paint that with some ivory chalk paint. Then I want to do a little distressing with some brown chalk paint. And so I'm just going to use a little dry brush and kind of go around the cage along the outside, giving it a chipped paint look. And then after I got it good and distressed with the chalk paint, I'm going to do a little trick my friend Teresa from Our Green Acres taught me, and that is to go over with a combination of some Mod Podge and actual cinnamon, and just use that combination to create a great rusted effect. And then, as you can see with this combo, you not only get the color of the cinnamon, creating that rust color, but also the texture of what it would look like if it was actually rusted. Next, I'm going to take some floral foam. I'm going to cut it down so that it fits my container. And then I'm just going to take some hot glue and place it there on top so that I can add my floral moss, and that will keep it in place. Next, I want to add these orange flowers that I purchased from the Dollar Tree. And I want to cut the stems down to about 3 inches long. I'm also going to use these grassy stems, which I will also cut to about 3 inches long. And then I'll just add my orange flowers to the middle of the container, and then I'll surround them on the outside with the green stems. Next, I'm going to cut the green stems down a little bit so that they will fit inside the container. To make the arrangement a little bit fuller, I'm going to go ahead and hot glue those cut stems back in at the bottom of the arrangement. Then I can just add my wire cage on top, pressing it down into the foam to secure it. And then I can just cut off any stray pieces that are sticking out of the cage. For the finishing touch, I'm going to take one of these little mini pumpkins and add some hot glue to the bottom and create a little finial on the top. But wait, I have yet another finishing touch. I want to add a little piece of gingham ribbon to the bottom. And so what I'm going to do is just cut a piece to fit and then go back with some hot glue and secure it in place. Then I took another piece of ribbon and just made a cute little bow to attach to the front. I'm telling you, this one is definitely my favorite, and it makes the perfect addition to any mantle or tabletop, in a hutch. So many applications. It just looks so cute and brings a great festive touch. Now, if that's my favorite, my collection of paper roll pumpkins definitely comes in a close second. And by paper rolls, I mean all kinds of paper rolls, like paper towel rolls, toilet paper rolls, wrapping paper rolls, saran wrap rolls. All different types of these rolls can be used to make the base of these little cuties. For my first pumpkin, I actually want to make a set. So I'm going to use all paper towel rolls, and then I'm going to cut 4 of the paper towel rolls about a third off the top. And this way it'll create a small set and a medium set out of that one set of paper rolls. And then I'll leave the other paper rolls intact as 4 large ones. First, I'm going to take 2 of the small rolls and hot glue them together. Then I'll take another 2 rolls and hot glue those together. and then hot glue the two sets to each other, creating a quad. Now, since I want to make this a set of sweater pumpkins, I'm going to use this old sweater that I have. It's not that old, actually. It was one of my favorites until I spilled coffee down the front. So yeah, now it's going to become paper roll pumpkins. And so all I did was cut off one of the sleeves and then put my large 4 paper towel pack into the sleeve. And now I'm going to just cut it down to size a little bit. It does need to be trimmed up a little. And then in order for it to fold a little better there on the ends, I am going to make some slits in the end of the sleeve. So again, it will just fold in better and lay flatter there on the ends. Now, before folding the other end, I do want to fill the paper towel rolls with some crumpled up newspaper. Now, this is not only going to give it some additional rigidity and form, but it's also going to give it some weight so that they're not falling over every time someone walks past. And then again, I'm just going to cut the slits and fold in the top. And then I'll just repeat the process for the other 2 sizes, and you can see the little mini one here. And then all 3 of them will be finished by adding some twine around the little indents there on the side of the pumpkin. I will take one piece of twine and go one way, and then I'll take another piece of twine and wrap in where the other indent is on the other side. And then I'll just tie those off at the top, leaving some excess twine there because I do want to create some little curlicues at the top. So to make the curlicues, I'm going to just coat those ends with some glue, and then I'm going to wrap them actually here around a pencil, but I got a suggestion from a viewer that the better option is straws, which is absolutely correct, and I do use that down the line here, but in this one I am using the pencils, but I would suggest the straws. They are a better option and they kind of are flexible and can be removed easily. And then once the glue is dry, you can see that you can remove the pencils. I struggle a little bit there. Like I said, those straws are just so nice because they just kind of fold in, and you don't have to struggle with them to get them out. But you can see it will do the same effect, and you just get this great little curlicue on top. To make the stem, I'm just going to use a piece of brown paper and roll it up. And then I'm going to kind of just twist it up. And I am going to add a little glue to this as well to hold everything in place. Next, I'm going to use some of this Dollar Tree polka dot ribbon to create a little bow that I'm going to place on top. I'll just put the ribbon into a bow form and then take some of my twine and tie it in the middle. Then I'm going to also leave a little extra twine there so that I can tie it to my pumpkin stem. In addition, I'm going to take one of these Dollar Tree burlap leaves and just cut out a little leaf for the top of my pumpkin and glue it in place. And now you can see why these are a very close second favorite. I love how you can make different sizes and create an adorable set. And best of all, they're made from things you were otherwise going to throw away. Makes me not feel as bad now about those coffee stains on one of my favorite sweaters. For this next pumpkin, I'm going to just take one of my paper roll quads and I'm going to just tape off the top with some masking tape. Now for the rest of these examples, I will just be doing the small version just for ease of illustration, but you can always do them in the larger versions if you like. For the covering on this pumpkin, I'm going to be using these Dollar Tree craft sticks. And then I'm going to just take the craft sticks and measure them as to where I need to cut them so that they fit the outside of my paper rolls. And then continue to cut several of them to size. Next, I'm going to take the cut sticks and hot glue those to the sides of the paper roll. I'm going to just continue around, putting the sticks right next to each other. And then as I get into the corners, I'm going to see what I need and just cut that down to size so that it will fit in that area. And then again, just hot glue it into place. And then once all the craft sticks were applied, I just painted them with some of this Waverly moss colored chalk paint. To make the stem, I took 5 more of the craft sticks and then just cut them at varying lengths on an angle. I then glued the sticks together and then painted them with some Waverly truffle chalk paint. I then used the same truffle colored chalk paint to do some distressing to the pumpkin. And so I just used a dry brush and went along the little ridges and ends of the pumpkin, just dry brushing on that wonderful truffle color and adding a little aging and distressing to the pumpkin. Next, I just slid my painted stem right in. Next, I wanted to add a little metal leaf to the top, and so I just cut a leaf shape out of a Dollar Tree pan, and then I added some Dollar Tree raffia to the stem to create a little bow. And then hot glued my metal leaf to the side. And then here is the finished project. Next up is my version of a Hobby Lobby pumpkin that was actually the inspiration for this entire series. And so to make, I'm going to just use some Dollar Tree clay. I got this in the toy section of the Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to take a piece and roll it up into a ball and then just kind of squish it into the sides of my paper roll. Now, they stick pretty well, but sometimes they kind of come up. But if you just kind of continue to squish it into the side and kind of put it in with the pieces to the side or around it, it will hold really well. And I'm going to just continue to do the entire outside of the pumpkin with the clay. It doesn't matter what color it is because I'm going to paint it eventually, but I'm going to just kind of keep pressing it into the sides and to each other, and then I'm going to paint the entire thing with some of this chalk paint in orange, and then go down around and do the distressing afterwards on the edges and corners and bottom with some of the brown truffle chalk paint. And then once that's complete, I'm going to just add another little craft stick stem like I did in the previous DIY. And then here's the finished project. I just tied it off with a little piece of burlap on top. This next pumpkin takes me back to my childhood and the seemingly endless crepe paper crafts we used to do. So for this one, I'm going to be using this crepe paper. I actually bought this at the party store because it had this beautiful rose gold color, and I just cut off little 1-inch strips, and then I'm going to wrap those strips around the end of a pencil, dip it into some glue, and then just attach it to the exterior of my little quad pumpkin rolls and continue this process all the way around the pumpkin. Now you can use hot glue, but if you watch my channel, you know we are not friends, and so I am just going ahead with some regular glue to do this. And then as you can see, it just creates all of these lovely little rosettes. To create the stem, I just used this corn husk that I actually purchased these in the Hispanics food section of my supermarket, and I just put some hot glue in the middle, wrapped it around, and then you can see how it creates this great little stem. And I painted that with some of the brown truffle chalk paint, and then I'll go back with some more of my rosettes to just finish off the top. Next, I took one of these Dollar Tree leaves and cut it down to create some smaller leaves for the top of my pumpkin. And then here's the finished project, a little rosette pumpkin in rose gold. Not ready to let go of summer just yet? How about extending the season a little longer with one of these beach-inspired pumpkins? To make, I'm going to take some glue, and then I'm going to paint the exterior of my form with the glue, and then take some of the Dollar Tree sand and just sprinkle that on top. I want to make sure I'm getting into all those little indents there on the side, as well as the top of my pumpkin. To decorate, I'm going to use some Dollar Tree seashells, as well as some Dollar Tree nautical rope and pieces of this driftwood that I actually purchased from Hobby Lobby. So first I want to just add some of this nautical rope, and I'm going to just kind of hot glue some to the middle and then take it down along my crease and then just cut it off there at the bottom. And then I'll repeat this for all 4 sides. Next, I'm going to take some of this driftwood and use that as my stem. But you can also use just a bleached out regular branch. Then I'm going to add a little burlap leaf that I cut out from some ribbon, and then my seashells. And then here is the finished project, perfect if you live by the sea or if you just don't want to let go of summer. The next one is kind of similar in that I will be painting the entire surface with some glue, but this one's more of like a fairy garden theme. And so instead of sand, I'm now going to be using some floral moss, and I'll just be covering the exterior, again making sure to get into all those little nooks and crannies as well as the top of my pumpkin form. Then I'm going to take some of the brown raffia and just tie it around where the little indents are to further accentuate those. Just kind of tying off the top, leaving some of that excess there on the top, and then again going to the other side to do the creases on that side as well. For the stem, I'll be using some of these twiggy branches. I'm just going to wrap off the end with a little bit of raffia, and this way I can just stick it into my pumpkin and then add some of these little acorns as well as a nice burlap leaf, and here you can see the finished project. Next up is a burlap version using some of this burlap ribbon I purchased from Hobby Lobby. And first I'm going to just cap off the roll with a piece of ribbon. I'm going to do that by just using some hot glue to the top of the roll and then place a piece of ribbon on top. And once that's dry, I can cut around it to create the topper for the roll. Next, I'm going to cover each roll with a strip of the ribbon just by hot gluing it in place, wrapping it around, and hot gluing the other side. Then I will take 4 of the rolls and hot glue them together, making sure I have the right side up. For the stem, I will be using the handle of one of my used paintbrushes. To finish it off a bit, I'm first going to wrap it with some twine. For the indents, I found this beautiful twine and leaf ribbon at Hobby Lobby, which of course purchased 50% off, if not with that 40% off coupon. And it's just absolutely gorgeous. And I'm going to also just use some of these leaves from a Dollar Tree stem in order to accentuate the top. So to make sure it stays in my little indent, I'm going to just add a little bit of hot glue and then just run the ribbon through there. It is nice and flat enough that I can run it along the bottom as well. It won't create any problems for when I want to sit it on a tabletop or what have you. And I'm going to again just kind of run the hot glue along the sides and then just kind of hot glue it in place on the top. Then I can re-add my stem and then add these little leaves around the top. And then here is the finished project. And then again, so much versatility with this project. In this one, I'm using some scrapbook paper that I purchased from Hobby Lobby. Going to just apply some Mod Podge to the roll and then just add the scrapbook paper on top. And I'm going to also coat this on top with some more Mod Podge just to give a nice finish to that. And then I'm going to use that same method of adding some glue to the top of my roll and then adding a piece of the scrapbook paper on top of that. And then once that's dry, just cut out the top to create a nice topper for the top of my pumpkin. To give this pumpkin a little boho flair, I'm going to be using these brown grassy stems, which I'll just put some wire there around the bottom to hold these all together. And for the indents, I'm going to be using these little pinto beans, which I will glue in place by using some regular white glue. I'm going to create 2 strips on each side and then just place my beans right inside. And then I will continue around doing that on all 4 sides. And then I will just add my little stem to the middle. I kind of made it a little fatter there on the end so it would hold nicely. Then I just gave it a little haircut, and since this is for my daughter Nikki, I added a little N to the top. Now, if we have a boho option, you know we're going to have a farmhouse option as well. And so to do that, I'm going to use this Dollar Tree cookie sheet that I've cut down to size to wrap around each of the rolls. Now, before I do that, I do want to remove some of these bumpy bits here, and I'm going to do that just with an old gift card and just kind of take out the bumps by going over with the card, and that makes it nice and smooth. Also gives it a nice rounded shape. That helps with the rolling. I'm going to add some Mod Podge to the roll and then just take it all the way around, securing the metal in place around the roll. I'm also going to add a little hot glue there to the end to make sure that it stays nice and secure. To finish off the top, we're going to use that same method of applying some hot glue to the top and then putting a piece of the metal on top of that and then cutting around to create a cap for the roll. Next, I want to give the metal a little aged finish, and so I'm going to use both a dark and light gray to do that, and my favorite applicator, a little plastic bag. And so I'm going to just go with the dark shade first and just kind of pounce it all the way around the metal, just creating a nice base coat for my pumpkin. Next, I'll take the light gray and do the same, just kind of pouncing it all around, creating those dimensions in the finish of the pumpkin. For added age appeal, I'm going to take some craft paint in the color Burnt Umber and just give that a little dry brush around the edges and corners and just try to get in there and make it look like it would if it was rusted. Next, I'm going to make a metal ribbon and stem, and this part needs some splaining. So what I want to do is take my metal pan and I want to count 2 of those kind of little rows over and cut a strip. But I'm going to stop about 2 inches from the top. And then I'm going to go back down to the bottom, count 2 rows over, and cut another strip, again stopping about 2 inches from the top. Now I'm going to go back over to the side and cut that first strip off. And then I'll go to the other side of the middle strip, and I want to cut down from the top now and basically want to end up with a form that looks like this. So the one skinny strip in the middle and then 2 strips off to the side, and then that 2-inch piece sitting nicely at the top. And then I want to cut 4 of those, and then I'm going to take some of my Burnt Umber paint and I'm going to paint kind of, at the edges, really kind of all around, but I do want to leave some of that regular natural metal shining through, but mostly the Burnt Umber. And then I'm going to also just cut some additional leaf forms. This happened to be a leaf I had from a Dollar Tree other item, but you can just kind of freeform it if you don't have something like that. And then again, just accentuate it with some Burnt Umber paint. Then next I'm going to take my little strip pieces, and I now want to fold in those 2 row deep sections so that I kind of fold it so that the sides look like this. And then the strip is just kind of the same width all the way around, except the top has kind of flaps on the end. And then I'm going to just take this metal ribbon and just hot glue it there along the bottom and along the sides, bringing that squared off former 2-inch piece that has now been kind of folded around in flaps all the way around to the top. And I'm going to do that on all 4 sides. And now I can just bring those flaps all together at the top, kind of folding them one in on the other to create my stem. And then I want to just take some of my little leaves that I created and add those to the top as well, and just kind of touch up any of the burnt umber that might have come off in the handling. As a final accent, I just took one of these Dollar Tree green burlap sticky flowers and just added that to the top. And then here is the finished project, a sweet little farmhouse cutie. And And then here's another option that makes a great addition, especially as we get towards the Thanksgiving time of the fall season. And these, again, I'm using the corn husks that I get at the Hispanic food section in my supermarket. And I'm going to just add some hot glue again to the top and create that cap by just gluing a piece of the corn husk in place and then cutting around it. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue the 4 rolls together. And then from there, I can proceed to add the corn husk. And I'm going to just kind of cut it down to size as well as to where it kind of fits around the roll. And if it doesn't fit all the way, I can just cut smaller pieces that can just be added. And it's very forgiving. So, you kind of just add it mid-roll there or in the corner and it still looks great. For the indents, I found another great ribbon from Hobby Lobby, and this is a wonderful braid in all these beautiful autumn colors. And I also did a corn husk stem, again wrapped and then painted with some brown chalk paint. First I'm going to just do the ribbon and bring that all the way down. I'm going to cut that off again. It is a little bulky, so it does create a problem for sitting, so I do cut that one off. But then once I've inserted the stem, I can just go ahead and add some of these beautiful fall colored leaves and a little pine cone, and there you see the finished project. And then here's another quick option for a sweater pumpkin. This one made from a sweater sock, and I just cut the foot off there. I did fold it in half so that I can make multiple pumpkins from this one sock. But first I'm again going to stuff the rolls with some newspaper, again to give it some rigidity as well as some weight. And then it's just ready to place into my sock. And I can just fold it into the corners. Then I'm going to use some brown yarn for the creases, and I'm going to just wrap it around on each side, leaving some ends at the top because I also want to do some curlicues with that. And again, to make those, I'm going to just paint those with some glue and then add some straws around to wrap them around. And then once that glue is dry, I can just pull the straws out. And again, these are much more flexible than the pencils, so it works out much better. Add a little greenery to the top, and there you have the finished project. Moving on, I'm now going to be making this adorable reversible wood sign. To make, I'm going to use 4 of these glass jars from the Dollar Tree. I'm going to paint all 4 of those with some black chalk paint. Next, I'm going to take some of these Dollar Tree stickers. These happen to just be in blue, but I want them to be black. So again, I'm going to paint those with the black chalk paint. And when I'm painting it, I want to make sure that I get kind of up and down and sideways so I can make sure I get all of the edges of the little stickers covered and none of that blue showing through. Now for the wood blocks, I'm going to be using these little cedar hang-ups. They come 4 hangers to a pack plus 4 of these wood blocks for just $3.48 at Walmart. Now, alternately, you can just use little blocks and put them on a skewer or a dowel, but I found these at Walmart and just wanted to use them. I thought they were so darn cute, and they are real cedar wood. Now before I apply my lettering, I did want to add a little white background to give it some contrast. And so I cut little rectangles of white paper, and I just added some Mod Podge to the front of my cedar plank and just added that rectangle of white paper right on top. Now since I want to make this a reversible sign, I'm also going to be doing the same to the back of each plank. And then I'm going to just go ahead and add my letters. To the front, I'm going to put FALL for fall, and then I'll flip them over and add BOO for Halloween, and also go back and coat everything with another coat of Mod Podge. I also went back and added some gingham ribbon to each of the jars and tied it into a bow. Next, I took my stickers that I had painted black, and I just wanted to add those around the edges of my wood blocks. So I just took some regular glue and then took strips of the painted stickers and added those all the way around the edge of the wood blocks. And then I took some more of the glue and put it around the edge of the little rectangle, and also added some more of the stickers around that. And then to hold the blocks in place as well as enable them to easily spin around, I filled the little vases with some rice and then just placed the wood block inside. And then again, it can easily spin around without messing up any foam. And then here is the finished project, all set up for fall with some cute little neutral toned pumpkins. But then as you can see, it can easily flip around to the boo side and then change out to some Halloween decorations, and you have a whole new look for your piece. Keeping with the reversible theme, how about some great picture frames to showcase some of your holiday photos? And here we see it with the fall side, but then just as easily they flip around and you can have a Halloween side as well. To make, I took 2 of these Dollar Tree pumpkin signs. These are the ones that have the little stand on the bottom. And what I want to do here is just remove that kind of burlappy top of the pumpkin, and it just kind of peels right off. I'm going to use that little wooden pumpkin at the bottom in another project, but this one I'm going to just peel off the top, and then I can use the utility knife to just cut along the bottom and remove that from the front of the pumpkin. And I'll do the same on the other pumpkin as well. And then I'm going to just sand the front of this pumpkin to remove some of that excess adhesive that is still on the surface. Next, I'm going to choose a selection of scrapbook paper that is going to be both for the Halloween sides as well as the just regular autumn or fall sides. To trace the shape as well as glue the paper onto the surface of the pumpkin, I'm going to need to use a book or something to raise the pumpkin off the surface because of that stand at the bottom. And then I'm going to just trace the pumpkin onto the scrapbook paper, but I do want to make sure that it's in the position on the side of the pumpkin that I want that particular piece of scrapbook paper to be on. So you see here where I now want this scrap paper, so I flip the pumpkin around because it will of course take the shape of the pumpkin and it'll be the reverse. So you just need to be making sure that you have the right scrapbook paper and then on the right side, and then cut those shapes out. And then I'm going to use some Mod Podge to attach the cutout to the surface of my pumpkin. And when I do my Mod Podge, I always do it in a very thin and even layer. I also like, especially with these larger pieces like this, to avoid any gapping or welting of the paper. You want to make sure that the Mod Podge is again very thin and even, and then also that it's actually a little bit dry. That's the way I find it works best for applying especially larger sheets of Mod Podge. And so I kind of take my time making sure that it's nice and thin and even, and then I even kind of spin it around a little bit, blow it, kind of make it sure that it's not completely dry but still just a little bit tacky, and then I find that it really does give a great finish to the piece. And then once all of those initial coats are completely dry, I go back with a top coat of my Mod Podge. Next, I am going to add the pictures to a little piece of contrasting scrapbook paper just to give it a little bit extra flair. For the Halloween signs, I did pick up these great bat glitter clips. So I'm going to just use some E6000 to attach those to the tops of the pumpkins, and then I can clip my photos right on after that. And then I'm going to just add a little extra decoration with these stems from the Dollar Tree in this great purple shade. And then as well, I will add a couple of Dollar Tree stickers to the bottom to finish it off. And then just paint the stem with some brown chalk paint. On the fall side, I used some Dollar Tree magnetic clips that I just painted brown, and then I'm also painting the stem brown as well. And then here we see the finished project. First, there it is on the fall side, but then it can easily transition into the Halloween side to display some of your favorite holiday photos. And now for a year-round, but especially nice around the holidays favorite, the wood lantern. This quick and easy Dollar Tree version uses 2 shadow boxes as well as 4 Dollar Tree plungers, and also a Dollar Tree shower curtain ring as well. To remove the handle from the plunger, all you need to do is simply unscrew it from the head. First, I'm going to just remove the hanger from the back of the shadow box with a screwdriver, and then I'm going to take some sandpaper and remove some of that glitter from the front. Then I'm going to use some Dollar Tree dice and glue those to the bottom 4 feet. Then I'm going to take some E6000 glue and place it there at the bottom of the handle. Also, I'm going to do a strip along the side, and then I'm going to top that strip of E6000 with a strip of hot glue on top of that. And then I'm going to place that in my base and hold it in place until that hot glue sets up. For the lid, I'm going to take my plunger top and just add that to the shadow box. And then I'm going to use one of these shower curtain clips. I'll just cut off that middle piece with a wire cutter, and then I can glue that to the top to create a ring. And now I can take the whole piece out and paint it whichever color I like. I'm going to be painting these black. And then here is the finished project. The taller one to the left was made with the Dollar Tree plunger handles. This shorter one to the right was made with dowels that I purchased at Walmart, and those come 3 to a pack for $1.88. And here you can see it in different variations here with pumpkins, and then when we want to go into Halloween, a couple of skulls will do the trick. And then here is a variation painted in white, and it does have some different toppers there, and you can see all those different varieties in the original video, which I will link below. Now, if you're not up for making any lanterns, so many of the stores now carry really beautiful versions at great prices. Stores like Michael's and Big Lots always have a great selection at a reasonable price, and some of my favorites are always these IKEA ones, which are rather large and extremely well made and come in at fantastic prices. Now down here in the bottom left, you'll see the original pumpkin from Hobby Lobby that launched my whole toilet paper roll pumpkin odyssey. But you can see the original here is so cute. It's like a wood carved pumpkin in that kind of 4-roll shape. But at just $4.80 for the small version, it is quite a bargain in its own right. Some other cute pumpkin options are these sweater pumpkins at Joann's. Not so well priced, but I do believe you can get those with the coupon and bring that down a little bit. Now for picture frames, there weren't too many options, but I did find these two, one at Kirkland's for $9.99 and one at Hobby Lobby for $7.20. Again, not that great price, but if you are in the market for some fall frames, these two places seem to be pretty much the only game in town. And then in the upper center there, Michael's did have this fall wood sign for $5.99. And then, although I didn't show anything like that little truck in the bottom right corner, oh my goodness, how cute is that? We just had to include it here. At Big Lots, a little black truck with a floral arrangement in the back for $20. Did anyone say pumpkin spice? Oh my goodness, it's fall coffee bar time. First up is a quick and easy faux galvanized 3-tier Dollar Tree tray. To make, I used a Dollar Tree small dog bowl, a Dollar Tree cake pan, a pie plate, as well as a large pizza pan. To prep the metal for the paint, I wiped down each piece with some white distilled vinegar. To paint, I'm going to use some dark gray paint and some light gray paint. It doesn't matter which brand you use as long as you have that color variation. And then as my applicator, I'm going to use a scrunched up plastic bag, and I'm going to just kind of pounce the paint on, starting with the dark paint all over the surface of the pans. And this, I think, gives kind of like an old school galvanized finish. These newer galvanized finishes tend to have like a thumbprint kind of look. But back in the day, it used to be a little bit more splattered like this. And in any event, this application method really gives you a nice buried coating of the paint and creates a great galvanized finish. And it is quick and easy. And I will do both sides of the pans, both inside and out, top and bottom. And then once all my pans are finished, I'm going to just take some burnt umber paint. I'm going to use a makeup sponge and just apply it to around the edges of the pans, along the bottoms and tops, just to give it a little extra aged finish. To make the wooden risers, I'm going to use these wood dowels from the Dollar Tree that I'm going to stain with this Minwax stain. Then I'm going to use one of these Dollar Tree solar lights, and I'm actually just going to be using the pole off of those, and we'll get to that in a second. First, I'm going to just go through and stain all of these dowels. And then I'm going to take the light apart. Just want to pop the top off and take out the spike in the bottom. And then I'm going to take some E6000 glue and place that around the middle of the pole, and then add some hot glue to the top and bottom of the pole, and then begin applying all of my wood dowels all the way around. And then once that's done, this is what your wood riser will look like. Now, to better stabilize the riser, I am going to add one of these round discs to the top of each riser, except for the top one, where I will be keeping that empty because I'm going to add this little net from this Dollar Tree toy to create the loop on top. But of course, I painted that with some silver paint first. And then once all the pieces are glued together, here is the finished project. And then here it is decorated for fall on my fall coffee bar. You can see all the cute little pumpkins. There are some of the fall coffee bar stir sticks that are on there, as well as the cream and sugar. Next, I'd like to make a banner for the top of my coffee bar. And this actually comes from a video that had 3 banners in it when it was originally published, but I'll just be making the one to the upper left, but we'll link the original video in the description box below if you wanted to check out the others. I'm going to start by taking this Dollar Tree Family, Friends, and Football wall hanging and removing the pumpkins. Next, I'm going to take this Buffalo Check scrapbook paper from Hobby Lobby and count 3 lines up and then cut there. Next, I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to mark right at the midpoint of that middle line. Then I'm going to take a ruler and angle it from that midpoint to the left-hand corner of that black box at the top of the paper. Then I'm going to again take my ruler, angling it again from the midpoint, now to the upper right-hand corner of that second black box in from the end of the paper. Then I'll take the ruler from that point and angle it to the corner of the page. And then just finishing up on the opposite side, I'm going to take my ruler from that point on the left-hand side of that upper box to the corner of the page and just mark a line there, and then I can cut out all of my pennants. To add a little weight as well as a metal accent, I'm going to distress yet another one of these Dollar Tree pans with some gray paint, and then I'm going to add some Mod Podge to that pan and then just place my cutout pennants on top. Once that first layer is dry, I'll go in and add some more Mod Podge on top. And then once that is dry, my pennants are ready to cut out. I'm going to just cut them, leaving a little border of the metal all the way around. As for the pumpkins, I painted them with Waverly chalk paint in pumpkin, and now I'm going to just accent them with some Waverly chalk paint in truffle. I'm going to paint on some brown stems, as well as do some accenting around the edge of the pumpkin, and then also make the pumpkin kind of crease lines there along the sides and in the middle, again using the truffle paint. Next, I'm going to cut some foot-long pieces of twine, and I'm going to use these. I'm going to fold them in half and use them to attach my pennant to the rope, and I'll just glue those to the back of each pennant with some hot glue. And I will do the same for the back of the pumpkins as well. Next, I'm going to attach both the pumpkins and the pennant to some nautical Dollar Tree rope. To finish the banner off, I just wanted to make a couple of tassels for each end. And I'm going to do that by just wrapping some twine around an old gift card. I'll do that about 40 times, and then I'll take another piece of twine and just tie off the top. Then I'm going to just slide it off the card and take another small piece of twine and wrap that around the top third or so of the tassel and just cut the bottoms off to create a nice little tassel that I will attach to the end of the banner. And then as a finishing touch, I'm going to just add some leaves from this lamb's ear that I purchased from Walmart. And then here you can see it hanging at the top of my coffee bar, adding just that fun, festive touch. Next, I'll be making this canister and tray set, and a little later on in this video, I'll actually be making the mixes that go inside. To make the tray, I'm going to take 3 of these thankful wall hangings, and I'm going to place them kind of front to back, and I could go front to back all the way across for all 3, and that will keep the nice gingham pattern on top, and I can just go ahead and glue them all together that way. However, I do want it to be that thankful on the front and the back of the tray, because I do want to use this as a tray, and so I'm going to flip that one around. Now you can see how that's going to mess up the pattern there on the top, but you could either keep that as is or paint it if it bothers you. I'm going to actually just keep it as is, because when I sit the canisters on top, you can't even see where that pattern gets messed up. And then for the feet of the tray, I'm going to use these little tires from this little truck. I'm going to just pop them right off and then glue them to the bottom of the tray. Now, as for the canisters, I got these from the Dollar Tree, and I do want to distress that cap a little, so I'm going to remove the caps from the jars, and then I'm going to wipe those down with some of my white distilled vinegar to prep the metal surface for the paint. And then I'm going to just go ahead with some of my dark gray paint and just use a piece of a plastic bag to, again, just kind of go all around the surface with the splattered paint. For the labels, I'll be using these Dollar Tree labels, and I'm going to just hand write the names of the different mixes onto the labels with a Sharpie marker, and then I will just place those right onto the canisters. Then I'm going to take my lids and I'm going to add these great little ceramic figurines in these different colored apples to the tops of the jars. And then once the glue is dry, I'm going to take 3 or 4 strands of the Dollar Tree twine, and I'm going to just piece those together, wrap them around the base of the apple where it is now attached to the jar, and just wrap it a couple times and tie a cute little bow. The first drink mix I'm going to make is a butterscotch hot chocolate, and I'm going to use 2 butterscotch hard candies for every packet of hot cocoa mix. And so I'm going to just empty 2 packets into a bowl, and then I'm going to take my butterscotch candy and I'm simply going to crush it. You can actually crush it right in those little packets, they hold up pretty well. Or if you're making a whole batch, you just might find it easier to put them in a Ziploc bag. And then once the candy's crushed, you simply pour it into your hot cocoa mix. And then give it a good stir and it's ready to go. Now, if you are making a large batch that you intend to store in a canister, When you are ready to use it, you can use 2 tablespoons of mix for every 6 ounces of water, or milk if you prefer. Next, I'm going to make some pumpkin spice latte. And I'm going to make that using some of this Dollar Tree cappuccino mix in French vanilla, and also some pumpkin pie spice that I actually purchased this one at Walmart, but Dollar Tree does also sell. And I'm going to, for every packet of the cappuccino mix, I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon to 1 teaspoon of the pumpkin pie spice, depending on how much spice you like. And then I'm going to just give it a good stir, and then that's it. It's good to go. Now, this mix will require, once you put it in the canister, if you are making a large batch, you're going to want to use 2 tablespoons to 5 ounces of water. Now, I do just want to note that just that one box did not have a lot of mix in it, so it only filled up a very small portion of this canister. So if you do plan on making a large batch, I would suggest getting maybe a big can of the vanilla latte from Walmart, and this will be much more economical. And the last drink mix that I'm going to make is this spiced caramel apple. And for that, I'm going to use these apple cider mix packets, as well as some Werther's Original Caramel Hard Candies. And I'm going to do the same proportion to candies for every packet of cider. And again, just kind of smash those up and then put the powdered candy into the mix. In addition, I'd also like to make some candy stir sticks for my coffee bar. To make, I'm going to put 6 of the Werther's hard candies on a silpat or parchment paper lined cookie sheet, and then put them in the oven at 350 for 4 to 5 minutes. Once they come out, I'm going to top them with maybe some dried apples and cinnamon, or even some of these fall colored sprinkles. I will also be using these coffee stirrers as the sticks for the candy. I'm going to just cut them in half so that they are the right size. And then this is what they look like when they come out of the oven. Now please note, these are extremely hot. That candy is scorching. It will harden quickly though, so I do want to go back with another stirrer and just kind of cover over the candy, the stick with the candy. And then again, just kind of work quickly to get my toppers on once before that candy hardens, because then the toppers will no longer stick to it. So just kind of want to make sure that it's you're working with them safely, but doing it quickly enough, because that candy does set up really fast. Now these will be the stirrers that I pair with my spiced caramel apple, but I do have some other ideas for the other drinks as well. For the Butterscotch Hot Cocoa, I'm going to use some Butterscotch hard candies, and I'm going to put them, again, 6 on a silpat lined or parchment paper lined cookie sheet, and place them in the oven for 4 to 5 minutes, just being careful to watch that they don't burn. On this version, I'll be using some mini marshmallows, as well as some chocolate sprinkles. And once out of the oven again, I will be working quickly and carefully to insert the stirrers, as well as quickly cover the stirrers with the candy. And then again, quickly add the mini marshmallows and the chocolate sprinkles to the top. Again, working safely, but making sure that the candy is still soft enough for me to apply the toppers. And for the pumpkin spice latte, I'm going to be using these caramel coffee hard candies from Werther's. I did get those at the Dollar Tree, and the topper for those are going to be some of the sprinkled pumpkin spice, as well as some of those fall toppers. And then once out of the oven again, they are so nice and pretty. They have a nice little swirl to them as well. And again, I will just work quickly to cover the sticks with the candy, and then quickly add some of the toppers in order to finish them off. And now here you can see how pretty they look on a white platter, and what a lovely addition they would be to your fall coffee bar. Alternately, you can arrange them in small dessert glasses, kind of like lollipops, and place on a 3-tiered tray ready to serve. Or you can serve them individually by just laying them across the cup of the coordinating drink. And then there again are your canisters ready to make another serving. And then we'll pan out for a slow-mo view of the entire coffee bar. There's the canisters and the 3-tier tray. And you can see tucked away in the back is the little pumpkin cloche. And then there on the first shelf, the Keurig with the flavored syrups and the good morning sign, the syrups and the sign, and the little holders for the coffee below are all from a previous DIY. I'll link those below as well. And then here we have our fall sign and our beautiful banner there at the top. Now I'm also excited to show you some great buy options as well. First and foremost, these amazing 3-tier trays. Look at these on the left-hand side here, all from Hobby Lobby. Now they are currently on sale for 50% off. That's why they have such a great price. But even if they're not on sale, you can still get that 40% coupon, and that makes those trays very reasonable. Now going over to the right, you can see there in the middle and also in the bottom the banners, one from Kirkland's for $14.99, and then that pretty little one down at the bottom from Hobby Lobby for $8.40. And then in the middle there are some other things. This coffee bar sign is really super cute. It's not that large, but it's fairly large. I think it's about like 10 by 10 inches, something in that range. Only $3.60. And then how cute are those little coasters? Those come 4 to a pack for $6. That buffalo check plate is very nice. Those are actually the ones that I did have on my coffee bar. They are a little pricey at $6 each. I'd wait till after season if you can, but if you want them right now, yep, they're going to be about $6. And then on the end there are so many cute things from the Dollar Tree. You have those gorgeous velvet pumpkins, as well as all of those cute little ceramic pumpkins and little other candles and plants and other little items like those little owls for a tiered tray decoration. And then the canisters there down the bottom for your different drinks mixes. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this Fall Decor DIY and BUI video. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give a thumbs up. And if there's something you liked in particular, please let me know down in the comments below. Also, please share with any family and friends you think would also enjoy this video. And if you're not already a subscriber, please consider subscribing. We'd love to have you join the family. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.